Hello everyone, welcome to our tutorial class. Today we are going to see an interesting poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, which is written by Robert Frost. And this poem is in Unit 1, 9th Standard Samacheer Kalvi syllabus. This poem is a memory poem, so please make sure that you watch the video till the end. Now, let's move to the poem. Before we move to the poem, let's discuss something about the poet. Here is the image of Robert Frost, who has written the poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. So, Robert Frost, his period is between 1874 to 1968, which means Robert Frost was born in the year 1974 and died in 1968. So he is an American poet who born in America and who lived in America. He was born on 26th March 1874 in San Francisco, which is in California. Genre of his poem is nature. His works are known for his realistic depictions of rural life, which means most of his poems speaks of nature, and his nature's description will be very much realistic. நேச்சுரலா இருக்கும் அப்படின்னு சொல்றாங்க. And education, he studied in Lawrence High School, which is in Dartmouth, and he won four Pulitzer Prizes for his work, and spoke at John F. Kennedy's 1961 inauguration, which means he has got many rewards as a poet, but he has got four Pulitzer Prizes for his literary work. Prize is nothing but an award for literary achievements. As a poet, he has achieved lots and lots of things in literature. So he has got four Pulitzer Awards for his literary works, for his achievements in literary works. And he was also a chief guest in John F. Kennedy's 1961 inauguration. When John F. Kennedy became the president in 1916, the year 1961, he was invited for the inauguration function and he was asked to give a speech in the function. Then, I have brought you some of the famous works of Robert Frost here. The Road Not Taken, Mending Wall, The Death of the Hired Man, Acquainted with the Night, Nothing Gold Can Stay. All these are some of the famous poems of Robert Frost. That's all about the poet. Now let's move to the theme of the poem.
Okay, so as we already discussed, Robert Frost is a poet who very much depends on nature. He appreciates nature in his poems, right? We have already discussed about this, and in this poem also he appreciates the nature of poet, as well as he also says something about the obligations of his life. He also discussed some obligations which he has in his life through this poem. So, the poet is stopping himself from his travel by some woods on a snowy evening. Seeing the scene, the poet is tempted to stay longer, but realizes the pull of obligations and the considerable distance yet to be travelled before he could rest for the night. Actually, Robert Frost once he was traveling through a forest, and in the middle of a forest he was stopped by the beauty of the forest, and he stood there and started wondering at the beauty of the forest. So there he wanted to stay for a long time and appreciate the beauty of nature, but he also remembers the obligations, the duties and responsibilities he has in his life, and so he moved from the place. Thinking of the duties and responsibilities he has in his life, he started moving from the place. That's what the theme of this poem. So the poem theme is he appreciates the nature as well as he also remembers the obligations, the duties he has in his life to be fulfilled by him. Now let's see vocabulary used in the poem. Cure is strange or odd, ஒரு விசித்திரமான ஒரு சிந்தனை எண்ணம்னு சொல்லலாம். ஓகே, woods, an area of land covered with a thick growth of trees. கிளஸ்டர் ஆஃப் ட்ரீஸ்னு சொல்லுவோம் இல்லையா, ஒரு நிறைய அடர்ந்த மரங்கள் நிறைந்த ஒரு இடம் ஃபாரஸ்ட் அப்படிங்கிறது தான் வுட்ஸ்ன்னு இங்கே மீன் ஆகுது. ஹார்னஸ். Harness is nothing but straps and fittings by which a horse is fastened to a cart or carriage. A harness is nothing but a belt which is tied around the horse neck, and it is another end is tied with a cart. Here you can see this is the harness of a horse. அதாவது ஒரு குதிரையை கட்டி அதை கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுறதுக்காக யூஸ் பண்ணுற ஒரு பெல்ட் தான் வந்து ஹார்னஸ்னு சொல்லி சொல்கிறாங்க. ஃப்ரோசன் இன் ஐஸ் ஃபார்ம், உறைந்த நிலைன்னு சொல்லி சொல்லுவோம் இல்லையா, அதுதான். ஸ்வீப், டு மூவ் ஸ்விஃப்ட்லி அண்ட் ஸ்மூத்லி. டு மூவ் a மூமெண்ட், லைக் ஒரு மிதக்கிற மாதிரி, ஃப்ளோட்டிங் மாதிரி ஒரு மூமெண்ட், அதுதான் வந்து ஸ்வீப்னு சொல்லி சொல்கிறாங்க. ஃப்ளோட்டிங் மாதிரி மூமெண்ட். டவுனி, சாஃப்ட் அண்ட் ஃப்ளஃபி, ஃபெதர் லைக், சாஃப்ட், ரொம்ப சாஃப்டாக மிருதுவான பஞ்சு போன்ற அப்படின்னு சொல்லி மீனிங் ஆகுது இங்கே. இட் டிஸ்கிரைப்ஸ் ஸ்னோ ஹியர், அப்படியே மிருதுவாக பஞ்சு போன்ற ஒரு ஸ்னோஃபால்னு சொல்லி சொல்கிறாங்க. ஃப்ளேக், ஜென்ரலி ஃப்ளேக் ஸ்மால் பீசஸ் ஆஃப் சம்திங், பட் ஹியர் யூ கேன் டேக் இட் அஸ் ஸ்மால் பீஸ் ஆஃப் ஸ்னோஃபால் சின்ஸ் த போயம் இஸ் அபவுட் ஆல் ஸ்னோஃபால். Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are? I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. Here, the poet, if you see the line, the first line, the poet has started the poem with a question word, whose, right? Because he wants to grasp the attention of the readers immediately. Actually, it is a rare and unusual thing that a poem starts with a question word, but here Robert Frost is dared to use it because he wanted to grasp the immediate attention of the readers. That is why he has started his poem with a question word, whose. Whose woods these are? I think I know. So the poet travels through a forest on his horse, and on his way he crosses a forest which is very beautiful. Suddenly he stopped at a place and started wondering at the beauty of the trees, and he asked a question to himself that whose woods these are. The person who owns these woods might be a known person to him. He asked a question to himself that whose woods these are. He might be knowing it, he thinks. He might be knowing the person who owns it, he thinks. Okay, and the person who owns it must be living somewhere near the forest only, but he won't see me that I am stopped in the middle of his forest and I am just wondering at the beauty of his forest. The person who owns the forest may not be knowing that I am stopped in the middle of the forest and I am just watching the woods are filling up with snow. If you see the image, you can understand woods fill up with snow. If you see the trees are all filled with the snow. Okay, அப்படியே ஸ்னோ படர்ந்து போயிருக்கு பாருங்க, எல்லா வுட்ஸுமே, எல்லா ட்ரீஸும். அதுதான் இங்கே இந்த லாஸ்ட் லைனில் போயிட்டு சொல்லியிருக்காரு. அண்ட் whose woods these are? I think I know. The forest picture I have brought you here. Okay, his house in the village though. The person who owns the woods might be living somewhere nearby the forest only. That's what the poet tells in this first stanza of the poem. ஸோ இந்த காட்டுக்கு, இந்த மரங்களுக்கு சொந்தக்காரர் இங்கே தான் எங்கேயாவது இருக்கணும், எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சவராகவும் இருக்கணும் அவர். ஆனால் அவருக்கு தெரியாது நான் இங்கே அவரோட காட்டுக்கு நடுவில் நின்றுட்டு அந்த மரங்களை பார்த்து ரசிச்சுட்டு அதனோட அழகை வர்ணிச்சுக்கிட்டு இருக்கேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. லெட்ஸ் மூவ் டு தி நெக்ஸ்ட் ஸ்டான்ஸா. So the next stanza, second stanza of the poem. My little hearts must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and the frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. So the poet has stopped his journey in the middle of the forest, right? And we know that he rides on a horse. Okay, so his horse thinks the act of his master as an unusual and strange thing because his master never stopped his journey at the place where there is no farmhouse. But here he could not see any farmhouse nearby the forest, and the place where they have stopped is between the woods and the frozen lake. So the horse think his master's act as a strange and unusual thing. You can see the picture here. Okay, he is searching for a farmhouse because he usually stops his journey where there is a farmhouse and take rest for some time. But here there is no farmhouse. The place is surrounded by woods and the frozen lake. There is no farmhouse. So the horse is thinking the act of his master as a strange thing. Okay, and if you see the darkest evening of the year, the poet has mentioned the evening as a darkest, described the evening as a darkest evening of the whole year, since the night has fallen so early. He has described the evening as as the darkest evening because the night has fallen so early on that particular day. Okay, so frozen lake picture I have brought for you here. Frozen lake is nothing but மேலே லேயர் ஐஸாக இருக்கும், பட் உள்ளுக்குள்ளே இருக்கிற வாட்டர் லிக்விடாக இருக்கும். ஸோ இந்த ஸ்டான்ஸால் அவரோட ஹார்ஸ் அவரோட ஆக்ட் ரொம்ப ஸ்ட்ரேஞ்சாக திங்க் பண்ணுது அப்படின்னு சொல்லி சொல்கிறாங்க, விசித்திரமாக நினைக்குது. ஏன்னா எப்போவுமே நம்ம போயிட்டு வந்து ஃபார்ம் ஹவுஸ் இல்லாத ஒரு இடத்துல அவரோட ஜேர்னியை ஸ்டாப் பண்ணவே மாட்டார். பட் இங்கே அவரோட ஜேர்னியை ஸ்டாப் பண்ணியிருக்காரு. அந்த பிளேஸில் தேர் இஸ் நோ ஃபார்ம் ஹவுஸும் கிடையாது. ஒரு சைடில் ஃபாரஸ்ட் இருக்குது, இன்னொரு சைடில் ஃப்ரோசன் லேக் இருக்குது. பட் ஏன் இங்கே மாஸ்டர் இங்கே நிறுத்தியிருக்காங்க அப்படின்ற மாதிரி ஒரு டவுட்டில் ஒரு ஸ்ட்ரேஞ்சாக ஃபீல் பண்ணுது இந்த ஹார்ஸ். நெக்ஸ்ட் டைன்ஸா he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. So the horse is shaking his bells once as if to ask his master whether they have stopped there by mistake or to continue his journey. Okay, he shakes his harness bells once to check whether they have stopped in a wrong place or wrong place by mistake, and if whether he has to continue his journey or to stop there. To ask this only, the horse is shaking his harness bells. Here the bells are used as a communication device between the poet and the horse. Okay, the only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. Here the poet hears, except his horse bell sound, he could hear the sound of easy wind and downy flake. Easy wind and downy flake. The sweep of easy wind and downy flake, which means அப்படியே காற்று மிதந்துக்கிட்டே வர அந்த காற்றோட சத்தமும் அந்த காற்றுல அப்படியே படர்ந்து பொழியிற அந்த பனி பொழிவும் மட்டும்தான். டவுனி ஃப்ளேக் பீசஸ் ஆஃப் ஸ்னோன்னு சொன்னோம் இல்லையா, அந்த பனி பொழியிற சத்தமும் அந்த மிதமான காத்தோட சத்தமும் தான் அவருக்கு கேட்குது, எக்ஸப்ட் த பெல் சவுண்ட்னு சொல்லி சொல்றாரு. நெக்ஸ்ட் ஸ்டான்ஸா. Now the last stanza of the poem. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Here the poet describes the beauty of woods. The woods are lovely, beautiful, dark and deep. They are very thick and they are very close to each other. The trees are beautiful to see and they are very thick and very close to each other. But I want to stand here for a long time and wonder at this beauty, but I have promises to keep. Here the poet talks about the promises means duties and responsibilities of his life he has in his life. Okay, but I have promises to keep, but I have lots and lots of duties and responsibilities that has to be fulfilled, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So those duties and responsibilities should be fulfilled by me. Here these two lines means in two ways. First one you can take it as like this, and miles to go before I sleep. So the poet is talking about his duties and responsibilities here, right? So he has to accomplish his duties and responsibilities before he die in his life. Okay, one way you can take the meaning like this, and the other way, sleep means உறக்கம்னு சொல்லி சொல்லுவோம் இல்லையா? So the poet wants to reach his destiny before the nightfall. ஓகே, அதாவது அவரோட வாழ்க்கையில் இருக்கிற அவரோட குறிக்கோள், லட்சியம், இது எல்லாத்தையும் அவர் அடையணும். அவர் வாழ்நாளோட இறுதி நாள் வர்றதுக்குள்ள அப்படின்னு சொல்லி ஒரு வகையில் மீன் பண்ணாரு. இன்னொரு வகையில், இன்னைய நாள் இரவு பொழுது வர்றதுக்குள்ள நான் என்னுடைய டெஸ்டினி, என்னுடைய கோல், என்னோட குறிக்கோளை போய் அடைஞ்சிடணும், நான் எந்த இடத்துக்கு போக விரும்புகிறேனோ அந்த இடத்துக்கு போய் சேர்ந்துடணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு சொல்றாரு. அண்ட் ஹி ஹாஸ் யூஸ்ட் திஸ் லைன் ரிப்பீட்டட்லி ட்வைஸ் பிகாஸ் he is very strong and he wants to insist on the fact that everybody has some duties and responsibilities in their own life, and they have to fulfill that before they die, before the last day of their life. That's what the poet insists here. Okay, that's what the poem. Now let's have a short summarization of the poem. Okay, so the poet is traveling through a forest on his horse, and he stopped at some point to admire the beauty of the forest, and he thinks the person who owns the woods might be a known person to him, and then but he thinks that he will not see me, that he stopped in the middle of the forest and wondering at the trees filling up with snow. Okay, and then his little horse thinks his act as a strange thing because his master never stopped in a place where there is no farmhouse, but this place is surrounded by the woods and frozen lake, and the evening is also described as the darkest evening of the whole year because of the early nightfall. Okay, and he gives his harness, the horse shakes his harness bells once to check whether they have stopped in the place by mistake or to continue the journey of their life. And the poet could hear the bell sound, except the bell sound he could hear another sound, that is the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. அந்த மிதந்து வர அந்த காத்துல வர அந்த ஸ்னோவோட சத்தத்தையும் அவரால் கேட்க முடியுதுன்னு சொல்லி சொல்றாரு. And the woods are lovely. Here the poet describes the woods, how beautiful the woods are. The woods are lovely, dark and deep. ரொம்ப அழகா இருக்கு, பியூட்டிஃபுல்லா இருக்கு, திக்கா இருக்கு, அடர்ந்து இருக்குன்னு சொல்லி சொல்றாரு. But he also thinks of his promises, his duties and responsibilities he has in his life, and so he moves away from the place. He wanted to reach his destiny before the nightfall. One way he has conveyed the meaning in this line, another way he has to accomplish his duties and responsibilities he has to fulfill in his life before he die. Okay, that's all. The rhyme scheme of the poem is, here you can see I have differentiated with the different rhyming words. I have differentiated with the different colors. No, though, snow, all go together, so I have used yellow color to identify it. Okay, and here is different rhyming. It won't go with no, though or snow. So usually we'll the first word we'll have it as a. If the second word goes with the first word, then that will also be a. Third word, if you see, it does not go with the word though and no, so let us have it as b. And the fourth one goes with the first and second word, so we can have it as a. So the rhyming scheme of this stands as a b a. Okay, since all these no, though, snow goes together, we can have it as a. Here differs from that three words, so that we can have it as b. Okay, if you see, all this queer, near, ear goes together, so we can have it as a, and lake is different from these three words, so let us have it as b. Okay, and here shake, mistake, flake goes together, So we can have it as a sweep different from all these three words. So it's B. Again A, B, A. Okay. And the last stanza of the poem is A. Keep, deep, keep, sleep, sleep. All goes together because and so it is okay. Now personification. Poetic device personification. Personification is nothing but attributing the human qualities on a non-living thing. அதாவது ஒரு உயிருள்ள மனுஷனோட குவாலிட்டியை, அவனோட குணத்தையும் ஒரு ஒரு உயிரில்லாத பொருள் மேலே வச்சு சொல்கிறது தான் personification சொல்லுவோம். Okay, here in this poem he gives his hornless bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. These two lines are personified because it shows as if the horse is a human being who understands his master's, his owner's needs and inquires if they have to stop. Here we have to imagine that the horse is understood his master's mind. Okay, what thing is running in his master's mind, he understood and inquires his master whether to continue the journey or to stop. ஓகே, அதாவது இங்கே வந்து அந்த ஹார்ஸ் வந்து ஒரு ஹியூமனுக்கு இருக்கிற குவாலிட்டியை அந்த ஹார்ஸ்க்கு அங்கே இருக்கிறதா சொல்லியிருக்கிறாங்க. ஏன்னா அந்த மாஸ்டரோட மைண்டில் என்ன இருக்குன்னு தெரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டு ஜேர்னியை கண்டினியூ பண்ணணுமா வேணாமான்னு கேட்குற மாதிரி இருக்குது. அப்படிங்கிறதுனால தான் இது பெர்சானிஃபிகேஷன்னு சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. ஒரு ஹியூமனோட குவாலிட்டி, அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங் இஸ் அ குவாலிட்டி ஆஃப் அ ஹியூமன், ரைட்? ஸோ அதை ஒரு ஹார்ஸ்க்கு சொல்லியிருக்கிறதுனால அண்ட் அது கேட்குது, போகிறதா இல்லையான்னு கேட்குது அப்படிங்கிறது சொல்லியிருக்கிறதுனால தான் இங்கே வந்து திஸ் டூ லைன்ஸ் ஆர் பெர்சானிஃபைட்னு சொல்கிறாங்க. Imagery. Imagery is used to make readers feel things through their five senses. See, through imagery, the poet make the readers to feel what is implied in the poem. Okay, அதாவது போயமில் என்ன சொல்லியிருக்காங்களோ அது எல்லாம் நம்ம விஷுவலாக நம்மளால் பார்க்க முடிஞ்சுது அப்படின்னா அதுதான் இமேஜரின்னு சொல்கிறோம். இமேஜரி இஸ் யூஸ் டு மேக் ரீடர்ஸ் ஃபீல் திங்ஸ் த்ரூ தேர் ஃபைவ் சென்சஸ். நம்மளால் அதை அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணி விஷுவலாகவும் சென்ஸ் பண்ண முடியுது, இமேஜின் பண்ண முடியுதுன்னா தட் இஸ் வாட் இமேஜரி. ஓகே, த poet has used the images for the senses of sight such as woods, house and lake. See, if you see in this poem, woods are used. You can imagine the woods and you can think and you can relate the image with this poem, right? House also you can relate with the poem and lake also you can relate. This is what imagery. அதாவது நம்ம கற்பனை திறத்தை வச்சு இந்த போயமை புரிஞ்சுக்க முடிஞ்சுது, அதுக்காக நிறைய டூல்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்கன்னா அதுதான் இமேஜரின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஓகே, alliteration is the repetition of same consonant sounds in the same line such as the consistent use of W, WH and S sounds. See, if you see in this poem W, WH are often used and then S sounds are often used. See, alliteration அப்படிங்கிறது என்னன்னா repetition of same consonant sound in the same line. If you see whose, woods, if you see W, the sound of W is they are presented in the first word and it is there in the second word also. So whose, woods, both consonant sounds are used same line. That's what alliteration. Alliteration அப்படிங்கிறது ஒரு கான்சனன்ட் சவுண்ட் ஒரு லைனில் ரிப்பீட் ஆகிருக்கணும். அப்படி இருந்துச்சுன்னா அது alliteration. Okay, so whose wood, if you see you can find many alliteration in this poem. Whose woods, his house, see stopping and then watch woods, then that's all I think. Sound sweep, yeah, sound sweep, all these are alliterated. Okay, repetition to you as I already told you, to insist on a idea, on an idea. Okay, ஒரு ஐடியாவை திரும்பி ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் பண்ணி சொல்றதுக்காக யூஸ் ஆகிறது தான் repetition. And here the poet has used this term twice, and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. He wanted to insist on the fact everybody has duties and responsibilities in their own life and that has to be accomplished before the end of their life. அப்படிங்கிறத இன்சிஸ்ட் பண்ணுறதுக்காக தான் இந்த லைனை ரிப்பீட்டடாக யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்காரு. That is what the repetition in this poem. Okay, so in the next video we'll see the question and answer for this poem. Thank you.